From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Dead ringer.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, the last thing you heard before the first thing you saw, the vanity plate on that panel truck that just seemed creepy. How to explain to the nice officer that you were not driving distracted, that half-eaten banana split was always in the passenger seat. Tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837. Or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host. She's just a regular gal with everyday dreams of autopsy reports and ballistics data, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Oh, Producer Mark, you know my brain too well.
I do.
Poor Producer Mark. I mean, he just has to put up with all of it, and it's just so awful for him.
It's not awful. It's not awful at all.
I would think it's awful if I were you. I came to him and I was like, I got this and I got talk about that. I got so much I don't know. We could split it into 2 episodes. I can't.
It was just like that. It was just like that.
Yeah, kind of.
No, well, your brain is full. You've got a lot of stuff to talk to the peoples about.
The peoples. There's a lot of stuff going on right now, and some of it good, some of it bizarre, some of it heartbreaking. But yeah, I just want to say a special thank you to Producer Mark for constantly talking me in on the ledge and occasionally holding down my flailing arms. And I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
The flailing arms hurt a little bit when I have to try to bring them down.
Because I'm pretty strong,
Yes,
for a chick. I can flail with the best of them. I do want to say that next week is Producer Mark's birthday, which I am remarkably selfish in that restaurants in California opened for about 4 or 5 weeks. It happened to be during my birthday, and we got to go to dinner, which was not pleasant. It's just not the same. Everyone, wearing masks and sitting far apart. It just didn't have that community feel. So it wasn't. It was nice to go out to do something nice after for so long.
It was nice.
It was, but
it wasn't the same, though.
It was not. And so there is a restaurant near us. California has a much bigger shutdown than most other states, deservedly, I guess. And we can talk about that later.
We'll argue about that on my political podcast.
Yeah, you do that. Assholes Are Us, the Mark Humphreys, podcast. So our governor shut down everything after opening up for a little bit, and it was really uncomfortable. But you can partake of items outside if someone is, a lot of restaurants don't have that in their lease where they can have cafe seating outside. But there's one Mexican restaurant near us that pretty much, I'm going to say, according to Producer Mark's, never really closed.
I don't think they ever closed.
But they have 2 separate patios on 2 separate sides of the building. And we have eaten lunch there once, and it was, lovely. So we're thinking of going. I know it's not a fancy, wonderful birthday, Producer Mark, but
it's okay.
I know.
I'm really old now. Each birthday that comes now is like it's okay.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to Producer Mark's birthday this week, and a few mentions. One is we hope to have an update on last week's episode, and I really want to thank everyone, especially the people in Northern Kentucky who shared the shit out of the podcast, and we're really still hoping lots of people keep doing this. It's bizarrely probably one of the most popular first week launches for any episode as far as the numbers. So really grateful for everyone who shared episode 147, the Bill and Peggy Stevenson case. And we're hoping to have maybe an update next week. The family is talking over sort of amping back up maybe a larger audience press-wise and offering a reward again. And,
let's hope that expands. We're hoping it'll expand.
Yeah, there's things in the works. So we're really hoping to have another update next week about that case, because that one is solvable and needs to be solved. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So we want to say a special thank you to Tipster Rachel for her lovely review on Apple Podcasts. And Producer Mark has the sweetest story. And I will tell you, it meant the world to me on Friday, because I if you've listened to this podcast in the past, that probably once or twice a month I get in a ball and cry and say, why are we doing this? Let's just cut it off. Why are we continuing to do this podcast that, is just not catching fire? And producer Mark had a lovely experience. Why don't you?
Well, I'll try to shorten it. I was on a work call, and about half of the people on the Zoom call were on
no
phone.
Camera.
We're on by phone,
right,
because you can join by phone or by
computer.
video.
Got it.
So, she was not able to see me, and we were. It was a business call about insurance, which I'm sure just thrills everybody out there in the audience. So we won't go into the detail about what the conversation was, but we had an hour meeting, and I had to go. The meeting was still going on, but I had to leave because I had another phone call that I needed to make. And so I excused myself, and I was about ready to sign off, and one of the participants in the meeting, a woman who I'd only met, I think, once, and never in person. I just met her.
Tipster Jane.
Yeah, her name is Tipster Jane. And Tipster Jane, I didn't know she was Tipster Jane. She was just Jane on the phone. And I said, okay, bye, everybody. And Jane spoke up and said, wait, Mark, wait. Are you on a podcast? I said, well, yeah, I produce my wife's a true crime podcast.
You may have heard of it. It's called Assholes Are Us with Mark Humphreys.
Yeah, no, it's not. The bottom line is Tipster Jane is a fan. And
a tipster.
And she's a fan of the show, and it was really great just by chance to run into a fan, and
who recognized you from your voice.
Who recognized me just from this, stupid voice of mine. So it was quite nice, and she said, you tell your wife that she's amazing.
Aw.
So and I said, yes, she is. Aww. Absolutely, she is.
And those are the things that keep me going. When sweet people, and I love the fact that she recognized you from your voice. That lets you know people are paying attention and have such good memory retention for, not a lot of people. I'm just much more auditory than visual. So I remember things, I hear things that other people don't hear, quite honestly. I don't mean like in a precognizance kind of way, but I have very, very good hearing. And it's just important to me. And when someone recognized, Mark's voice from the podcast, it just meant the world to me. So thank you, Tipster Jane, for that. That means the world.
Thank you. And
before I go any further, I wanted to say that Dead Ringer, I am remarkably sad, because I always thought Dead Ringer meant that in, the 1800s, you were buried with a bell and a string wrapped around your toe, and that if you rang the bell, if you moved, a lot of people, maybe weren't quite dead yet. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah. I had always been told that the dead ringer, you put a bell tied to a string around your toe. And maybe if you were in the morgue, or even, before you were getting buried, if you moved and the bell rang, how they used to put like a mirror in front of your mouth to see if they could see your breath.
Sure.
If your breath was too, shallow. So apparently dead ringer is not to do with the death investigation world or the mortuary world, which makes me sad. It actually is an early 19th century term for illegal racehorses that were...
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a ringer, I guess, is a racehorse term, and then a dead ringer means it's dead center, an absolute copy of a thoroughbred horse that would parade around a, less accomplished horse. Or ship a less, like someone would think they were buying a thoroughbred, and they would ship a not thoroughbred horse that looked like the thoroughbred, and it would be a dead ringer. So it's a horse racing term, and I'm sad.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to do with dead people. But I love the idea of a string with a bell around your toe. I always thought that's what dead ringer meant.
Yeah, it's the kinds of things that disappoint you are kind of interesting.
It is sad, isn't it? I need to get out more. And speaking of that, several events this week just struck me hard, and I felt like it's a good time to talk about them, and they will lead into actually next week's episode also. But I am really blessed to have a couple of great guys and girls who are detectives, who are good to me and talk to me. And one of my favorites called me on Tuesday, and he had just completed 2 weeks of isolation at his home with his wife and 2 kids because someone in his department didn't want to burn a vacation day, so he came to work sick, testing positive for COVID.
Now, kids, here's a helpful tip. Don't do that.
Don't do that. So the entire department had to spend 2 weeks at home quarantining, and he was fine, never had any symptoms, and his tests are all negative, his wife, his kids, everybody. So he went back to work for the first day on Tuesday of this last week. And he called me on Tuesday afternoon about 2:30. And I was like, hey, did you go back to work yet? And he goes, yeah, today was my first day and I'm cutting out a little early. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't care. That's up to you, right? It's because he'd been at work since 1:45 a.m. on Tuesday morning. And I was like, what happened? Knowing it's going to be a good story, not knowing it's going to be this good. But he goes, well, I get a call. I get a page, whatever, text at 1:45, or actually about 1:15, saying that I had to show up to the hospital in the city in Southern California, where he is a detective. And the first responding officer called him there because it was a gunshot wound, and he's kind of the gun expert and a detective. So a 27-year-old Filipino man was in the hospital, saying that he was at a stoplight at 12:30, and with his window down, and a black male wearing a white t-shirt and with dreadlocks came up to him and stuck his gun through the window at his temple and said, give me your gold chain. And the Filipino man said no, and something happened. I'm going to say maybe, I don't know the exact story, but perhaps he said they wrestled for the gun. But anyway, he ended up getting shot in the dick. And
sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
You should not laugh since you own a dick.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just whenever you hear "shot in the dick," it's the
shot in the dick, and you're to blame. It's just terrible. So he's shot in the dick, goes through his testicles, and ends up in the seat behind him in his car. Now he ends up at the hospital, right? And this officer is like, he didn't get shot in the dick. He shot himself in the dick. And I'm like, why would anyone shoot themselves in the dick? Was he mad at his dick? Did he want to die? What the fuck happened?
A lot of us are mad at our dicks, but not that mad. Not
that you have to shoot them. He said, oh, it's pretty common. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah, I mean, dumb guys have a gun in their pocket. They have the safety off and they try to pull the gun out and they end up shooting themselves in the dick. And I go, is this your first self-inflicted dick shooting that you've been called out on? He's like, no, it's my fifth.
He's fifth.
And a 23-year career, he's had 5 dick shootings.
That's like one every 5, less than, I mean, it's more
one
than
every 5 years. Yeah.
I mean, my God, that's more than one every 5 years.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Trajectory, you can figure out if you're a detective, maybe. Anyway, he goes, let's just say perhaps I illegally got a hold of his text records from the cell phone provider. And at 8:05 p.m. the previous night, he had texted his girlfriend and said, I'm hurt. I need someone who can stitch me up. And I said, well, maybe, Mr. Suspicious, maybe he feels like he was shot by a gang member and he was afraid he would get in more, he'd be killed if he told. So he wanted someone to, on the low, down low, sew up his dick and balls and seat. Hopefully not using the same kind of thread. Hopefully different kind of thread.
I have to stop laughing.
You do, because it's a terrible thing.
Turn down my microphone.
You do not have to turn down your microphone. Anyway, I'm like taken up for the guy. And I'm like, was he in a gang? And he's like, nope, no gang affiliation. And I'm like, so he's not in a gang, but he has a gun in his pocket and the safety off and he shoots himself in the dick. And he goes, yeah, you can tell, So at 8:05, he texts his girlfriend, I need someone to stitch me up. He has time to go home and take a shower and change clothes.
He went and took a shower?
Took a shower and changed clothes.
Oh, my God.
Now, here's where I laughed harder than I said, did he stop to eat? And he goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure he stopped and got some lumpia, which I guess is a Filipino dish.
God.
And so he took a shower, changed his clothes, and then drove himself to the ER at 12:30 or 12:45 and said, a black man in a white t-shirt with dreadlocks shot me in the dick. So he's, and this detective is saying, you know what it's like at the hospital. You're laying on a gurney. You're not, you're not going anywhere for a while. They're not rushing you anywhere. And so he has time to talk to the guy. And he's like, look, I know you texted your girlfriend. I know that no one else did this. Just tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. You shot yourself in the dick. It's not a felony. It's a misdemeanor.
Right.
It's going to be dismissed. And you have done worse to yourself than the state could ever do to you. The state's not going to shoot you in the dick for a felony, and it's not a felony. Just tell me you did it. So they had pulled over 3 black men in white T-shirts with dreadlocks and questioned them. And they got the impression that no one was involved. They hated doing it, but, this man was adamant that a black man with dreadlocks and a white T-shirt shot him in the dick trying to get his gold chain off his neck through his windshield, through his window.
Yeah, that's bad.
So he says he's trying to scare the guy a little bit. The nurse is standing next to him on the gurney, next to the gurney, and he's like, they're going to wheel you into surgery and they may amputate your balls. Tell me the truth. And the guy's like, no, it's a black guy with dreadlocks. So he goes, they wheeled him in and did surgery, and I don't know, but there's no one that shot him. He fucking shot himself in the balls and dick.
Oh, my God.
So that made me angry, but is also kind of funny. And the fact that dick shooting is not rare. It's common. It's very interesting that this came up because I had a discussion with my BFF Angela this week about, that Mark and I are not, real big gun proponents. We don't care if you have a gun. That's great. Have all the guns you want. But Mark and I know that if we had a gun in the home, one of us would be dead, and not on purpose. It'd be all Marvin Gaye up in here. Marvin Gaye's dad. Be like, I'm cleaning my gun and I shot Mark in the face. I mean, it would just, or more than likely, Mark would be cleaning his gun and shoot me in the dick if I had one. I'm not kidding. You would.
I mean,
you would.
No, I should point out to those who are getting ideas, we have protection here. Don't
worry about that. We're fine.
Yeah.
It's just not the kind that could potentially misplace a dick and balls. So,
okay, God. But the fact that he did that you go ahead. That's I don't know why he thinks maybe he's married and he thinks his wife is who knows. I don't know.
You mean the guy?
The guy that shot himself.
It's his girlfriend.
Okay, that's right. He had a girlfriend.
He said, I'm injured.
Yeah.
I need someone who can stitch me up.
So is it just a matter of pride that he can't just admit that he
that's a really good question. Now, that's a great question.
I mean, it's not a crime. Maybe he's afraid that because he was carrying a weapon.
Maybe it wasn't an illegal weapon. No.
It wasn't. Okay.
It was his. It was his. He's not affiliated with a gang. He's just an idiot. He's a 27-year-old idiot driving around the streets of Los Angeles with a gun in his pocket at midnight on a Monday. 8 o'clock, and shoots himself in the dick and then checks himself in 4 or 5 hours later after he can't find someone to stitch up his dick and balls.
And I guess,
Sorry. Where do you go? Do you go to do you go to Joann Fabrics? Like, hey, do you guys have some really cool needles and thread? Can you sew this up? Stop. And don't attach it to my perineum.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to look up perineum, folks.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
it's not a stage. It's not the stage. Anyway,
some would argue that it is, but we're not. But
boom,
boom. So I can see how a young guy who thinks he's a tough guy, putting a gun in his pants, a la the end of Pulp Fiction, and thinking that it's cool, and then pulling it, but failing to put on the safety.
Right.
I mean. But oh God, oh
yeah, and then that's that you get that could happen. What bothers me is picking a person of color and saying, and you're a person of color, by the way, and saying that a black guy did it. It's just like, can you come up with something better? If you're not going to take responsibility for shooting your own dick and balls, why that's the thing I'm not ever going to get, why someone does that. And it's just, it bothers me greatly. So that's kind of a funny story. It's not, it's not the best story. And this next one bothers me even more. because people that are kind and empathetic bought into this bullshit. So last Saturday night, I'm sitting at my computer and I get a ping on Instant Messenger from an amazingly kind, sweet, thoughtful tipster who is devoted to doing the right thing. She's just the girl who wants to do the right thing and wants to see people who don't do the right thing be punished and people that are innocent victims, be taken care of. So she's like, this, and it's a small town in Indiana. And she said, this is in my town and it's really scary. So she sends me this link to a girl named Hannah Potts in, I believe it's Princeton, Indiana. All I know is it's Gibson County. That's all I know for sure. And Hannah Potts is like a 23-year-old, 6'1", beautiful young girl who I believe recently graduated from college with a degree in psychology. Ding! I think that might be hint number one. So I'm not saying physician heal thyself, but fuck me raw when you hear what she did. So Hannah Potts, the story goes, couldn't sleep. Apparently at 2 a.m., she left her mother's rural home with 2 phones and a camera. I don't really know what that means because I don't think she does a whole lot of night vision goggle photography. But, 2 phones and a camera, no purse, no wallet, no keys, no car. Said she couldn't sleep and needed to take a walk in rural Indiana on a rural county road at 2 a.m.
Okay, so far this sounds strange.
Right. It happens. People take walks, right? And people don't sleep.
But with a camera. And
2 phones and a camera.
2 phones and a camera in the middle of the night on a dark country road.
Right.
Okay.
But what made it sound even worse and more implausible is that at 7 a.m., she posted a Facebook Live video that was 3 minutes long to her mother and said things like, "Mom, can you hear me? Can you hear me? A black man in a maroon sedan pulled up as I was walking, threw me in the trunk of his car, called me baby girl. It gave me the chills. Mentioned Ohio, which is a neighboring state to Indiana, in case you don't know geography. When I started to check out is when she said the room has 4 walls. Huh.
Yeah.
That's great, Hannah. Thanks for the 4-walled room.
Whoa.
So it was a 3-minute live video, Facebook live video. Now, I have not seen the video, but I've heard the audio, which angered me greatly. I before I even heard the audio, as soon as this person sent me this message, and I know what she was doing was reaching out to try and get everyone she could to help, to share the story. And by then it had already started to pop up on some true crime discussion pages and some places I, haunt and look around. And I was like, none of it sounded real kosher. And then here's when I really got that this was just the largest pile of bullshit I'd ever heard. It said the FBI was monitoring the case. Now, she's 23. She is not a child, potentially taken across state lines. That's why she said Ohio from Indiana. But the FBI doesn't monitor cases. The FBI is all in or all out. They're not like, we'll take a look at this. We'll keep an eye out. 23-year-old girl got kidnapped and taken across state lines for sex trafficking from a small town in Indiana. So the FBI's quote that they're monitoring the situation was like, okay, this is bullshit, right? So and then I heard the audio and was like, you fucking bitch. How dare you say a black man kidnapped you from your goddamn rural street country road in Indiana? How dare you? It just
didn't the tipster who called, even though you were telling her this, she still thought it might.
Yes. Now let me get to that. I want to scream and yell and say, this is the worst thing I've ever heard, and I'm very angry. But what if there's a 1% chance that it did happen? But what I did do, I don't want to yell at and shame this tipster who is doing the right thing, who is hoping to shine light on cases like this, who is informed and, like I said, empathetic and kind and thoughtful and youngish. And I know she's doing the right thing, but I can't yell at her and say, I did actually later on say this is a pile of bullshit, but I can't yell at her and say that. And you can't yell on instant messenger anyway, because it's the written word. So what I did was I said, you're a very thoughtful, intuitive human being. What does this say to you? And she said, the first thing I thought of was sex trafficking. And I thought, okay, how do you explain? You can't explain to someone in an instant message. Sex trafficking is a much smaller instance than most people think. The minute a young, beautiful girl goes missing, it's immediately thought she's being sex trafficked. She's being pimped out. She's being used. People are making money off of her, and then maybe she's killed, or maybe she escapes, or maybe she doesn't, and she stays there until she's 45 and she's left on the street. I don't know what, they think happens, but it is a much smaller instance. I used to think it was this huge underground. I mean, we're tippling into like QAnon territory here, where everyone's a pedophile. Anyone who's missing. Typically, when a person's missing, one person's involved. It isn't a network of people. But when a young, beautiful girl goes missing, a 23-year-old girl goes missing after telling her mom she can't sleep and needs to take a walk, and leaves with 2 phones and a camera at 2 a.m.
Right.
You think it makes sense that this tipster thought she's being sex trafficked. So I tried another route. I said, where you live, is it rural? And she said, yes. And I said, do you think that someone who is sophisticated enough to snatch people off of a rural road, shove them into a sedan, and immediately get them into sex trafficking, or traffic them, human trafficking, do you think that's a possibility in your neighborhood? And she said, because she's smart, she said, it's Gibson County and we're close to a freeway. And I thought, all right, I'm going to let this one go. I'm going to hope I'm wrong, that I'm really, really wrong. But what I wrote back to her is that I appreciate you caring and saying this, but I'm telling you, I don't know if it's going to be a day, a week, a month, or a year from now, but this girl's going to be found alive and safe, and her family is going to say, we ask for your privacy at this time. I don't know if she has mental health issues. I don't know if, she's unhappy or uncomfortable at her mom's house. I do not know. What I can tell you is a very cursory search found that she's 23, she's 6'1". Going to be tough to take down a 6'1" buff looking babe, right? Just graduated.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, 6'1". Just recently graduated with a degree in psychology, which, tip right there. I didn't feel, and then once you hear the audio from her Facebook Live, it's all too perfect and yet all too bad at the same time. It's perfect that she says, someone snatched me and this is the color car. I'm walking down, our country road at 2 a.m. He called me baby girl. He mentioned Ohio. I'm being held in a room. Mom, can you hear me? Please take care of Giffy or whatever, her cat or dog. And I love you. And I was like, is this
what in
right?
The actual,
and I'm saying to myself and to this tipster, is this the way someone talks who's under duress and has been kidnapped for real? I don't know. I don't know if that's, I'm going to guess the FBI knew pretty quickly that it was not real, because they said we're monitoring the situation. I mean, the Gibson County Sheriff's Department put out information. The FBI was like, yeah, we're monitoring, whatever. Her sister, her twin sister, Lauren, who was doing the best she could to get the word out about her missing sister. And she said, this is not like her. We don't know what's going on. She left this, Facebook message for my mom. It's so troubling. We don't know what's happened to her. Her sister is going out on all the limbs to find out what has happened. Her sister, who is I guess married, has a different last name. And, she is like, I don't know what happened. This is not my sister. Something bad has happened to her. We need your help. We need to get this story out. That's what you want in a family member, is someone who goes all out for you, who is young and knows the way of the world of social media and how important social media can be, especially when this person has put out a post on social media saying, Mom, are you there? Hello, Mom. If you can hear me, please say something. I really need to hear your voice. Something's happened.
What?
Mm-hmm. I was out taking those pictures of the animals at 2 a.m. and this guy came out of nowhere. It was the same guy I saw yesterday morning in the maroon car. He grabbed me. He pushed me into the trunk. Oh my God, where is he going to take me? Mom, please. Think, Hannah, think. He's black. He's about Jerry's height. Jerry I work with. He has a deep voice, kind of the way he called me baby girl, sent shivers down my spine. I don't like it.
Oh.
Please, Mom, if you're there, can you please say something to me? I'm in a room. There's a little light. There's four walls. I don't think they know I have my phone. So you got to tell the cops everything. You got to show them this video. So maybe they can find me. And I don't know what did he say? He said something about Ohio. So she then goes on to tell her mother, that she loves her and her father and to take care of whatever fucking pet.
It's disgusting.
When you hear it's the same guy I saw yesterday, you maybe have the clue that she has been planning this.
Sure. And is it Jerry at work that he's...
Yeah.
How much you want to bet Jerry's a black guy?
I wouldn't bet you a dime because I bet you are right and we'd be on the same side. So, the FBI is monitoring the situation. The FBI from Indianapolis, the Gibson County Sheriff's Department is all over this. It's like breaking news. The FBI in Indianapolis confirms federal agents from Evansville have offered the Gibson County Sheriff's assistance and resources if needed in the search for missing 23-year-old Hannah Potts, whose Facebook Live video has gone viral. So, yeah, she planned this for a week. She worked on it with a script. She had two friends, a male and a female, who lived a mile from her, who helped hide her. She kept a diary for the week before and said, this is going to go viral. I know it's going to go viral. She said that she was working on a novel. She said she was, and that these other two people were characters in the novel.
Real seriously?
Yes. Now, this is heartbreaking, and I didn't know because I refused to pay attention to it anymore. But on Sunday night, the tipster emailed me when I finally I didn't go off on her because she doesn't deserve that. But what I said is, you have to listen to me. If I'm wrong, God forgive me. But this is the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever heard in my life. Quite frankly, it doesn't sound like a 23-year-old college graduate. It sounds like a 15-year-old bitch who needs attention. It sounds like a teenage fucking prank and a girl who needs attention. I'm going to hope that she has, some sort of a mental health issue. But I got furious and said, I don't fucking care. I don't know anyone who doesn't have a mental health issue. We don't fucking do this shit and waste time, energy, resources of law enforcement and fucking point the finger at an invisible human being who could really have gotten, worked over for being black. So the only difference in what I wrote to this tipster is like, God forgive me if I'm wrong, but this is going to fucking blow over and you're going to see this is bullshit. And again, I don't know if it's a day, a week, a month, a year, but you're going to have to believe me. And a day later, she messages me and said, babe, you were right. She planned it all. It's a big hoax. Sunday night, she sent me that. So 24 hours later, it had all blown over. Her poor sister said, my phone has been blowing up. I appreciate the prayers and kind words, but I'm making this to answer the majority of the questions that I keep getting asked right now. I cannot be on social media anymore tonight. Hannah lied about everything. She was never abducted. This has been planned for a while. She claims she did it all for a novel she's writing. And the worst part to me, she said, I disown her. I want nothing more to do with her. And the worst part is that she pointed the finger at a person of color, and I pray to God no black man with a maroon sedan got pulled over or questioned. I mean, her sister, her twin sister, is like, I am disowning her. I want nothing more to do with this girl.
Okay, now that's really sad. I mean, the whole thing is just sad.
It is sad, but it is understandable.
Well, I mean, yes, of course. No, I hope that over time that heals. But the sister is absolutely righteous in the way she feels about this.
Well,
I mean,
her sister was the one waving the flag the hardest and the loudest. Like, this is my sister. This isn't like her. She left. I mean, how would you feel if a member of your family who maybe hasn't acted like this, right? Who hasn't done kind of this bullshit before, does something as ridiculous as post a Facebook Live video saying this terrible thing has happened, and you think they're going to be killed, or you're never going to see them again, or they're going to be sex trafficked, which isn't really all that common. And she's 23, and these other two people, Joshua Thomas and Maria Hopper, apparently they're a couple, and they live a mile from her, had kept her sequestered in a room in their basement behind a plywood, makeshift door with like a lock on it. And, they're older. They're like late 20s, early 30s. They're not kids. And they, helped her. I guess maybe she told them.
What kind of an idiot what did they think?
I think they thought they might be part of her novel, and that maybe that would make them, famous. I don't
understand the concept of the breaking the law, that what they did was illegal.
Well,
it's unbelievable to me that people are so stupid. And obviously, I mean, her sister understands the magnitude. Her twin sister,
her 23-year-old twin sister,
understands the magnitude of this. And if they came from a family that understands the difference between right and wrong, what the hell?
Right. So it didn't take long to nab her because of stupid things she did. Her Facebook Live was filmed on her phone, her Verizon, cellular phone, that the IP address was, a mile from her home at 6:06 Central Time.
Jesus Christ.
Right, exactly. A deputy from Gibson County said Ms. Potts' actions are criminal in nature. She had many people in her family and community worried sick over her personal health and safety. Further, she risked involving innocent individuals by giving a false description of an alleged abductor. Finally, the number of hours spent by multiple law enforcement agencies in this time of limited resources is simply not recoverable. This callous disregard for others will not be tolerated. And that's it. Your family who loves you, who's worried sick, why would you do something like that to them?
What a betrayal. It's just a betrayal
of everyone in her life. But this sheriff's deputy makes a huge point. In the time of a pandemic, where who knows how many law enforcement agents are out of commission because they're sick or have to be quarantined. You do some bullshit stunt like this where everybody's got to fucking look for you and you're not even missing. And you, in the time of such social and racial unrest, you point the finger at an imaginary black man who never ever did anything to you.
In a maroon
sedan.
I mean, it's just like something, let's see, I think I saw that in a Tarantino movie
Exactly.
or something.
It couldn't be more out of central casting. And I think that's what she was thinking with this novel she's writing. I mean, maybe she read Gone Girl and decided that she didn't want to take a bunch of vials of her own blood and smear it around the floor. She wanted to, make it, but she spent a solid week working on it, which to me, I don't want to give her a pass of mental health issues. To me, that's a psychopathy. That's a complete narcissist. That's not, I'm a little bit disturbed and I'm going to pretend that I was kidnapped. No. This is willful and narcissistic and dangerous. So she posts this video saying she was abducted near her residence while taking pictures of animals. Who takes pictures of animals at 2 a.m.? Do you think she works for National Geographic?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't. She says, I'm abducted by an African-American male driving a maroon vehicle. I was pushed in the trunk of the car. I'm held in a room with a small light.
With 4 walls.
4 walls in the room and a small light in the middle, like a bare bulb hanging from. It really is out of a bad episode of Law and Order SVU. Mom, you got to tell the cops everything. Show them this video. Maybe they can find me. You fucking bitch. I don't care what your mental health issues are. How dare you? How dare you do this to your family, to your community, to the black community, to the law enforcement community? You don't have just one victim here. You have covered a huge amount of victims in your ridiculous behavior. And it crushes me sometimes. There's the white woman syndrome where if a white woman goes missing, they say you drop everything and you go looking for her. Maybe that's what she thought would save her, that I'm a young white girl and I'm gonna pretend that I've been kidnapped maybe for sex trafficking or human trafficking reasons. I don't really, what kind of a novel would this be? I don't even want to know. But whatever it is, it's going to be a shit novel. And this is the kind of thing that I don't know what to say. I'm grateful for the people like the Tipster who trusted me enough to come to me and say, this is going on in my town, in my small town. I'm scared. It's horrifying, because she's kind and thoughtful and believes when people say something bad happened to them. And I'm not like, I have a friend who calls me like the Jessica whatever of podcasts, like I'm Murder, She Wrote. Like I get involved in, I'm the not Elsa Lancaster. What's her damn name?
Angela Lansbury.
I'm the Angela Lansbury of podcast. I'm not. I don't, get involved in things that much. Like in that tiny little town that Angela Lansbury lived in, she was always in the middle of a murder and she's writing a book. I don't get involved like that. I have gone on searches for missing people. I want to do anything I can to help also, but it's things like this that I don't know where it came from. And I don't have that much of a bullshit detector. I know a lot of other podcast hosts who are like, I have people that come to me who want me to cover a story and I have a very strong bullshit detector and I say no. And I get that. I don't have that. I'm naive and like this tipster, I believe people when they come to me and tell me something bad has happened to them. I try to vet them as much as possible. And for the most part, the cases we cover here are covered in so many other ways, including by law enforcement. I would know if someone's lying. I've never had that happen in 2.5 years. I'm knocking wood right now because I never want that to happen because I am naive. But the second that I looked a cursory level at this story. I could see it, smell it, feel it. It was a fucking lie. And I hadn't even gotten to the part about the imaginary perp being a black man in a maroon. I hadn't even gotten to that. When I got to that, I was like, okay. But if you hear one second of this audio from her Facebook Live video, you're going to be like, oh, this is bullshit. You have to. Now, in all fairness, the tipster couldn't find the video online and hadn't heard the audio. By the time that all this has happened, all I could hear was the audio. But the second I heard the audio, I'm like, I cannot say the word bullshit fast enough. And because I adore this tipster and I know who she is and where she's coming from, I was like, you need to look at this closely with your gut. Listen to your gut. Don't listen to what your head tells you. Your head's telling you a 23-year-old woman was abducted from a country road at 2 a.m. and shoved into a trunk, taken across state lines, kept in a small room, and potentially from here maybe sex trafficked to another state or etc. Don't listen to what that says. Listen to your gut. When you read, hear, see what this woman says happened to her, is there anything? That's why I kept trying to push her to listen to her gut, because I know her gut is smart. Her gut is smart. And I guess that's the thing I want to say, is that our guts are smart. I know this. Listen to your gut, whether it's a good story or a bad story. Listen to your gut. Don't always listen to your goddamn brain, because your brain may be really smart and think these are the facts and this is what happened. Listen to your gut. I think the best detectives who never want to admit they're quote unquote psychic, and you don't have to say it's a psychic ability, call it trusting your gut. Trust your fucking gut. I feel like if we trusted our guts more, the world would be a much better place. If we, maybe I always say this in yoga, turn down the volume in your head and listen to your breath and your body. When I'm upset or holding on to something, I stop breathing. And I sometimes don't even know that I'm like, I'm holding on to it until something, and I'm, oh man, I must have been holding on to my breath. So turn down the volume in your head the next time something like this happens, and listen to your gut. I mean, the detective that called me on Tuesday listened to his gut and then checked the guy's messages, because he could tell from the way the shot entered his dick and balls that he didn't, he wasn't shot by somebody outside his car. He could tell. I mean, that's like from years of being in law enforcement, but he had to first listen to his gut, because when someone's standing there telling you, I was accosted through my car window by a black man with dreads and a white t-shirt, that's in his mind, the facts, but in his gut, he knew the facts were not that. The facts are different. So I know this is an odd left turn, but I promise that it all connects. So again, this week, a tweet went around that several people in the true crime podcast world took offense to, and I don't blame them. This person said, my big complaint with true crime content creators is that I wish they use the funds that they make off of these real people's deaths to help their families or to just do something good for others. Now, my friend who hosts a podcast who answered her said, I literally spend every day looking at cases, researching them. She is on many organizations that help find missing kids especially, but missing people. She is like a bright light in the world. And it's Nina, the host of Already Gone. And also people like Marissa, the host of The Vanished. These are people, I could name you 20 podcast hosts off the top of my head, and I'm not close to that many podcast hosts at all. I don't know that many except via social media. But I could name you hosts who have put boots on the ground, who have volunteered for searches, who have manned desks and tables and anything they could do to help find someone.
Well, who have promoted the cases in the first place.
Thank you. thank you, who shine a light on these cases that may have gotten pushed back or buried, or, I know Detective Cox doesn't like the word cold case. He likes old case, but that has become cold and needs to be heated up. And the light from podcasts, books, TV shows, that light is helpful. And again, this is going to lead into next week's episode, but one of the answers that came back to this person's tweet was many podcast hosts hold fundraisers or donate ad money from, whatever they make to causes. They do videos to get the word out. It's become a full-time job for many of them, and they use this platform to raise awareness and gain attention for cases. And that I thought was a beautiful answer. And this person who answered is not a podcast host, but she understands. And in her defense, the original poster said, I guess I just don't know enough about true crime podcasts. I think she thinks that true crime, and I've lost friends over their assessment that I am glorifying and making an entertainment out of someone's murder. And I'll just be honest, there's probably not much more you could say to me that would hurt me worse, because I don't find this entertainment. If you think podcasts are entertaining, that's great. I do find some podcasts entertaining. It doesn't matter if they're true crime or if they're about, water skiing. I do find podcasts, it is a form of entertainment, the same way television is a form of entertainment. But you're not turning someone's life or death or tragedy or missing person's case into entertainment. In my mind, you're shining a light on it and trying to raise awareness of a case. It kills me to think that someone thinks that way, and there's probably a lot more people that think that way than...
Well, you know what? I'm sorry. It really kind of ticks me off. You told me something about this before we started. I didn't know the extent of what this claim was. The idea that you do something because you love to do it and because you want to help and you have a calling to do it, which I think a lot of these, I think you and a lot of true crime podcasts have, to think that because you found a calling and that you want to do something to help somebody that you shouldn't get paid for it. I mean, what do police get paid? I mean, police are out there, they're risking their lives every day, and they get paid, and they do this. I mean, the people that write books on this subject, they get paid for that too. It's not a crime to sell ads or make money. And as Melissa says, I know that Melissa is personally involved in a lot of these cases. She off the air, off this podcast, she's actively involved in trying to help solve these cases. It's part of her life. So, I mean, I don't understand that thinking. What are you supposed to go and do all this work and not get paid for it? That doesn't make any sense at all. It's supposed to be purely out of the goodness of your heart and spend money doing this and not get paid for it? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I kind of understand why people think that way, and we don't get paid much for this.
Well, that's the other thing. You don't get paid a lot.
We don't get paid. We don't have advertisers, and we get.
But we will, and we want advertisers.
Well, that would be a good thing. But we get a handful of people who support us on Patreon, which is such a blessing. It is, and it's a very small number of people, and we are more than grateful. And we don't even, we don't expect it. We don't mention it that often, but we are really grateful.
Absolutely.
That's the only quote unquote payment. And it doesn't matter if I get paid or not. I appreciate you saying that. It is something that's important to me. And if I can't contribute my large amount of, ad dollars to paying off, the backlog rape cases that need to be tested, I can physically go on searches and look for people. I can do what I can do.
Which you do.
Yeah, and I can. And I am happy to do that when I can, and I can research the fuck out of anything. And I can call coroner's offices and say, is, the remains found from this person? Is it this person? I don't mind doing it. In fact, I love doing that, and I don't get paid, and I don't care about that. But
I'm the producer. I'm the one that's supposed to care about that.
Yes, I know
you do what you do, but any enterprise that goes out and does good things, it's always. I mean, there are very few people that do it just purely for charity. For those who do, we help them. We want to help them, and so do the other podcast hosts.
Absolutely, I was going to say,
shining a light.
Yeah. A lot of podcasters, a lot of independent podcasters, we're not on a network, and I know a lot of amazing podcasters who are independent podcasters who are not on a network, and they may make money, ad money. The world is very different now. Ad money is shrinking a little bit as far as the podcast world, maybe because of the pandemic, people aren't, traveling much anymore. A lot of people would listen to podcasts on their commutes. Thank goodness, after a few months, our numbers are climbing back up. But I was really scared at first because they went down quite a bit. And because we're not a huge podcast, they didn't go down as much as others. I know very popular podcasts that lost 25% of their audiences. They're coming back, and we probably 10 to 15% is what we went down. But we definitely are coming back up. But the people that do this typically do this from the good in their heart, not because they want to start off. You started this podcast because you wanted to help people and you wanted to shine a light on these cases. That's why I wanted to do
it.
A better job than some of the shitbag podcasts I'd heard that embarrassed me. I did. I wanted to do a better job.
And
to me, I try. To me, when I used to work in a comedy club, managing comics and comedy clubs, people would show up at open mic and be like, I can do better than that guy. And I'm like, then get the fuck up there. Get the fuck up there and do it. Get on stage and do it and show that you can show up, Bob Smith or whatever, that you're funnier, that you can do better. And sometimes they were and sometimes they weren't. And you learn a lesson. Maybe you weren't meant to do it, or maybe you are. Most people start something like this because they think they can do better. And I know there are amazing people out there who can do better than me and better than really popular podcasts. And I hope that they do it, or they find their outlet, their niche. Maybe it isn't podcasts. Maybe it's writing books, or maybe it's writing reality television shows about, producing or writing about true crime stories that show what's happening. So in a way to lead into next week, what I want to say is there is a book by Sarah Weinman, and she wrote a really lovely article. And her book that comes out pretty soon, if not, maybe not already out, it's called Unspeakable Acts. It's the true tales of crime, murder, deceit, and obsession. So it's I think 12 different cases. But she makes this point that in the podcast world, pretty much everyone bows down to the specter of Serial. And Serial was kind of one of the first, There were others that were before that.
It was groundbreaking, for sure.
It was groundbreaking in the fact that it caught on and that it was produced by, it was an offshoot of This American Life. So it already had kind of a built-in audience. In hindsight, people are saying, Sarah Koenig could have done this differently. Well, you know what? She didn't know she was starting a genre, and she did a great job. I don't like that when they're like, this could have been different. But this author, Sarah Weinman, says true crime is having a moment. And she's right. It's been having a moment for a very long time. And she mentions the start of the New England-based minister Cotton Mather and the Salem witch trials, and how, that became such a huge thing that everyone, became involved in. And she's, comparing it to today, where there are books and documentaries and podcasts. And she says it's much more participatory. Sometimes it's more investigative. It's more reflective. It's critical thinking, instead of True Detective magazine on a stand at the gas station. It's a well done documentary on the ID network or Oxygen or Lifetime. She's making this point that true crime is having a moment, but it's our fascination with murder and people that get away with murder is a perennial one, and I love that she voices it as the shock of a deed that is so awful, it creates a tear between order and chaos. And we want justice for something terrible that happens to someone. And even if we get quote unquote justice, there's still this like hollow feeling because there's no real justice when someone takes someone else's life. You can't change that. You can't bring that back. You can't press rewind, You have to accept the fact that someone is gone and that maybe the person who did it will have, some sort of retribution or maybe they won't. It's an odd world and an odd time, but it's also a really interesting time in the world. The big thing now that is touted almost in every television show about murders is, forensic genealogy. That was developed by amateurs working outside of law enforcement, and then law enforcement thought this is a great thing and brought them in. Genetic genealogists were research nerds who wanted to know about the hereditary things in their lives and other people's ancestry. They didn't give a shit about solving crimes. And it just turned out to be this amazing thing. So I don't mind the term internet sleuth. I really don't. It sounds a little janky, a little jaded, but there is such a fascination for things like murder. And I love the fact that Sarah describes it as, this tear between order and chaos. And that's it. We want to be in charge. We want to have our order. I'm not saying the entire world is made up of control freaks, but I think a lot of people are more comfortable when there's order. That's why things like law and order, those words, almost everyone understands when you hear them what they mean. And the world of reporting on crimes has changed in these last few years. It's not just guy A did something bad to girl B. It's talking about addiction and mental health issues and poverty and inequality and racial relations. And I mean, it's become this very large umbrella that a lot of things are put under. And the thing that Sarah Weinbaum says that brings it home to me, and that we will talk about next week, is that consuming as well as creating true crime is kind of an ethical precipice. It can be a thorny endeavor. And it always has been, and it maybe always will be. But things like podcasts and documentaries and books, they go a long way to make the world a more just and empathetic place. And more cowbell.
Remember, if you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/Just the Tipsters.